Getting your planting out timing right is a crucial step to setting your summer garden up to thrive, and it can be the difference between a disappointing harvest and a bountiful bumper crop. In this video, I'm going to share my best tips for nailing that plant out time in your garden for common summer crops like peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, and I'll share a few other tips to help you along the way. So hit that like button, it really helps me out, and I'll get right into it. There are some basic things you need to know to get started, and hopefully these are things that you already know from your timing out of your seed starting process, and that is your average last frost date for your area and your average first frost date for your area. The difference between those two dates is your approximate growing season length, and that's crucial information as we talk about the things that you need to know because it can influence some of your other decision points along the way. In my case, there's about 150 days between those dates on average, but it's a good idea to plan for a week or two of difference at either end of the season, and so I'm really talking about something more like 120 to 130 days of growing season. That means I need to pick crops that can mature within that time frame from the time I transplant them out. So that's the other basic thing you should know. What is the average days to maturity for all of your plants? That'll give you some flexibility in when you plant things all throughout the season. But it's not just last frost dates you need to pay attention to. Your weather forecast is even more important. While it's true most summer crops will survive cooler temps as long as it's not freezing, most summer crops also really don't like cold air, especially when they're young. Things like peppers prefer to go outside once your temps are consistently above at least 50 Fahrenheit or 10 Celsius, even overnight. This doesn't mean that if your temps dip to 48 degrees one night that your peppers are going to die, but repeated nights of cooler temps will actually stunt their growth significantly, which you don't want for your freshly transplanted peppers. You want them to get out in that garden and thrive. Things like tomatoes and cucumbers, they prefer it even warmer outside. For those, you'll ideally wait until your nighttime temps are consistently in the 60s, above 65 is even better. They will stunt and slow down at lower temps, which you want to avoid unless you're banking on a really long grow season, but that's not a good gamble to make. And don't be fooled by perennials that are hardy to your zone. Just because they can survive your winter's average coldest temps, it doesn't mean they'll be fine as young seedling transplants before the weather warms up. Unless the specific plant of any type says on the seed packet or on Google or wherever you're looking that it'll do well in cold temps when young, aim for warm weather to plant them outside. And the other things to look for in your forecast are days of heavy rain or heavy wind. Both of these can be really hard on young plants, so try to avoid transplanting right before or during those types of weather, or you may have real troubles with transplant shock, damage and destroyed plants. I mean, I've been there. But it's not just that air temp that makes your young transplants thrive either. It's also the soil temp. This is super important for happy, healthy roots that'll quickly establish in their new outdoor environment. For most warm weather summer crops like peppers, tomatoes, and squash, you can plant when the soil temps are between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 to 21 degrees Celsius. I'll say tomatoes and cucumbers, though, really do their best in soil temps above 70 degrees. To check your soil temps, you'll want to do it at about the same time each day, ideally 2 to 3 hours after sunrise in the morning, and so maybe 7 to 8 a.m. in most parts of the northern hemisphere in the spring. You should use a thermometer and go about 4 inches down into the soil for each reading. This will give you a good read on if the soil is staying warm in that key root zone even after the sun has been down all night. I use a cheap instant read thermometer to do this, and I check multiple garden areas each day so I can see if some areas are warming up faster than others. My raised beds tend to warm up faster than my in-ground gardens, and so I can often plant those first, even before pots and containers. So use a little patience and wait for that soil temp to warm up too, and stagger your planting to start in the areas that get warm faster. Knowing this info, plus your weather forecast and your overall growing season length, it gives you a little flexibility if you need it. For example, I've been waiting several weeks since my average last frost date passed because my air temps have been pretty cool at night. However, my soil temps have come up, and those are steadily above 65 Fahrenheit or 18 Celsius, and so I am less worried about 1 or 2 nights coming up that drop into the 40s. If I keep waiting too long, I'm going to run into the risk of end-of-season frost before my crops are fully ripe and ready. But before you go and just drop your plants outside because the soil and air are warm, I need to remind you, you must harden off those plants if you started them indoors. So even if you have a super powerful grow light, it is nothing compared to the intense light, heat, and UV radiation from the sun. Additionally, wind, rain, dryness, the combination of all of the above can severely damage or kill your plants if you don't get them used to it slowly. So hardening off or acclimating your plants, it's a process that usually takes between 7 and 14 days. The really simple explanation is you bring all your plants outside for just a short period of time that first day, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and keep a really close eye on them for any signs of heat, light, or wind damage. Then you take them all back inside and you repeat that process the next day. But you leave them out a little bit longer, maybe an hour that second day. And you keep increasing that time outside while watching really closely for things like burns from the sun, wind damage, getting tipped over or tilted, or any excess water or rain that might be coming. You repeat this process in and out every day while increasing that outdoor time, and by the end of about 7 days, you can usually have those plants outside for a full day of sun, wind, and rain. But keep a really close eye on them. The last thing you want to do is think they're ready and then come back to a whole bunch of unhappy plants. If you skip this step altogether, you will almost assuredly end up with burned or damaged plants out in the garden. The good news is, there are always some hacks or tricks to help things along if maybe you put plants out too early or you didn't get them properly hardened off. If temps are going to drop pretty low one night, you can use things like closures or buckets to cover individual plants, row covers and frost blankets to cover beds, and containers can be moved up against a warm house or into a covered space like a garage or a porch to give them a little extra protection. If your plants are suffering a bit in the sunshine because maybe they weren't fully hardened off after all, you can employ shade cloth to help give them a little bit of relief. Shade cloth is just a loosely woven fabric that's designed to allow only some of the sun's light to come through. Shade cloth comes in different strengths that block out more or less of that light based on percentage, so 30% is very common for gardens, but you can get up to 60 or 70% shade for extreme cases. Plus, shade cloth is really handy to have in that summer season when the sun is really hot and your temps might be getting too high. Now, I buy this in a big bulk roll, but you can also get it in pre-cut sheets. I'll leave some links below to some of the ones that I like. So now you know, planting out dates aren't something I can just give you a list of for your zip code. You need to do a small amount of research and data collection yourself to really nail it. But it's pretty easy, and I think it's a lot of fun to really dial in and focus on your own little piece of earth in your garden, getting a little bit closer to nature and your environment, and setting your plants up for success. If you want to learn more about how I got to this point in my garden, watch this video here about my seed starting tips and tricks. And if you want to really learn more about the incredible jalapeno pepper, watch this video here. And above all else, remember, plants help us grow.